My question is, where in the Bible does it say, come to college campus and harass students trying to go to science class?
Do you feel harassed? Thank you.
Thanks for a good conversation.
It was good.
It's been enjoyable talking to you.
It was good.
It's been nice to see your point of view.
But when I tell you the reason that rape is wrong is because it's one person violating the body and soul of another person, right? That's why it's wrong. And so if rape were legal, say it was like perfectly legal, like there was something weird happened in this culture and it was like, now bodily autonomy for men means they're allowed to mistreat women and rape them. I would be out here with a sign saying, rape's wrong, it's a crime, rapists should be treated as criminals.
Well, yes, but I also think there's bigger issues in this world right now.
Then, well, anything that's
There
legal
is
and
bigger
protected.
issues in this world.
One second.
Well,
If we're going to go off the assumption that it's okay to have people conceive without their wanting to, such as a rape victim, what would you do as an abolitionist if it were to come to a pass that that's the only thing you can do?
the only thing you can do is what? Kill them?
To like have the baby.
Oh,
to get to the point.
Yeah.
If you were to only be able to have the baby, would there be a change in your lifestyle to get this movement to help people that do suffer from these things more and more?
Sure.
Would you be willing to take a baby that I conceived as a victim of rape?
Yes, but like that's just me as an individual. I'm talking about as society. I think we have a better answer for people. So I think we should extend the laws, just laws, to all people equally. So the laws that protect you from murder can be applied to even the rape conceived. So say I was conceived in rape.
I have
right?
a cousin who was.
Right. I have as much of a right to life, and your cousin has as much of a right to life as someone who's conceived in love. The other thing that's really sick and jacked up about our society is that people who think that abortion should be legal for any reason always appropriate this rape situation, so that they'll have aborted a baby that they conceived.
I don't believe that is true. There are people that use abortion as birth control, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I'm saying, but the person who has aborted a baby just for birth control will always bring up the rape 13-year-old.
Well, I have not.
Well, I'm not saying you have. I'm not saying you, but it's everyone always brings it up. And then you always say like, well, wait a second. Do you think that abortion should only be legal in the case of rape? And you know what they always tell you? No. They're just being disingenuous liars that appropriated someone's pain.
Danger of the mother's life, it should be legal. Because danger of the mother's life, let's keep the life that is guaranteed.
I understand it's hard, but I do disagree, and that's because I believe in universal human rights, love, and answering
and you're not wrong.
Evil with good.
You're not wrong. But in the case of the mom could die.
Well, I think if the mom's going to die, she needs to be in the hospital being watched. She needs to be cared for.
Yes.
There needs to be a doctor there who treats the child and her as a patient and seeks to do no harm.
Yes.
If the baby dies, remove the body.
There's no chance of the baby living without the mom.
Right. Well, there's no chance of the baby living if the mom chooses to have them killed.
There's no chance of the baby living basically before 5 months if the mom dies.
Well,
all the new wombs and stuff like that are outside of the body are 5 months and on.
Yeah, so why does the baby, if the baby dies in the womb, naturally, they're not murdered. But if they are with thought, I want to have this baby.
If the mom is going to die, there is grounds to protect the life that we have and are sure to have.
So the way to protect the mom is by killing the baby?
The way to protect one soldier is by killing another.
And I
don't see you out here protesting war.
Well, I'm not a big fan of war, but the
way to save the Ukrainians is to kill the Russians that are invading.
Well,
and vice versa.
I don't know if we want to really go down this analogical role.
Like, you have to apply your logic to every single situation.
That's true. I agree with you. If you want to compare abortion to war, I will agree with you.
What are your beliefs on gun laws?
Gun laws?
Yeah, only way to stop bad guy with a gun is good guy with a gun.
No, I don't. I've never said that. What I believe about gun laws is that people should not shoot other innocent people with guns.
Well, yes, but if someone has
a gun,
if you shoot someone, the way to stop someone from shooting someone else is probably by shooting them or hurting them.
Yeah, if someone's about to shoot you with a gun and you shoot them with a gun, then I think you're okay. But if you shoot
Well, if
someone with
the
a gun
baby is killing
because
the mother,
you
then
want,
then we should keep the mom.
if
It's the same logic.
well, the baby is not killing the mother. If you know that, I'm
There
telling
are
you,
situations where the baby is sucking too much from the mom.
and that's why she's dying.
Yes.
I would say that she needs to be in a hospital.
Yes.
She needs to be in bed, with care, with the monitors,
I'm not
and they
saying
need to be
mother
monitoring the
care,
mother and the
but-
child. I don't think they need to be saying, you know what you need to do? Kill this baby, because it's not natural. That's babies are not killing their moms.
Healthcare intrinsically is not natural. It's not something that people are just given.
He's not wrong.
What do you mean? So
People have to scientifically create medicine and scientifically work on the idea of maintaining human life past a point
Yeah.
where they could have just died in the wild.
yeah. Well, we do what we can.
Back
What I
in the
mean
Stone Age,
naturally
there
is,
wasn't a cesarean section to save the mom.
yeah. So a lot of moms would die.
So a lot of moms died. Back
Yeah,
in the 1920s, that wasn't really a popular thing.
Yeah, I don't know all the stats here, but there might be almost as many as, I mean, just proportionally, I don't know. Childcare, growing babies in your wombs is not 100% not dangerous, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But you see all these people out here, we all came out of a womb. What I'm suggesting is that we protect humans in the womb the same way we protect humans outside of the womb. Even though there's a million exceptions in a million situations that someone could say, oh, it's justified to murder humans because this human was that. I'm saying the law should be, if you have a human being, they shouldn't be murdered.
Well, you can
But
look at
you're also propagating the idea that your hypothetical solution is also umbrella covering every other hypothetical problem that you could have.
Well, I'm saying the law,
you
should put the law in place.
You're saying in your thing about send the mom and kid to the hospital and try to save the kid, you're saying
Yeah, that's what people
the
do.
mother is a womb,
No.
and if the baby comes out
The
and the
mother-
mom preeclampsia, before cesarean sections,
Mm-hmm.
the move was always save the baby, see if the mom makes it.
So are you saying,
Cesarean sections were made to save the mother and child, correct?
yeah, to help
Yes.
in those situations? Yeah, definitely.
Before that,
But those aren't
people
abortions. Those
before
are,
that, people talked like you.
no. People
We're
talk
gonna
like
save
me
the- we're gonna
now
save
and
the
in the
baby.
past.
We're
We're
gonna
gonna-
save the baby,
Yes.
and then we're gonna try to save the mom. The mom needs to come first, always, and then the baby can come.
no,
and she's not gonna say that.
Listen, I'm
No one's
saying
gonna say
save
that.
them both. Do everything you
Save them
can.
both if you can, but if it push comes to shove,
So what are
save
your
the mom,
actual
save
views?
the mom.
You're arguing very much. You seem like what you disagree with is abolishing abortion. You don't think abortion should be abolished.
I think that as a woman, I would feel more comfortable if I got raped, not having that baby,
So
because I would not want to see my rapist face again.
so for the women that
Or if
don't
I,
agree with
or
you,
if I was raped by my brother, my uncle,
Mm-hmm.
my dad, and that's a case of incest,
So-
in which case putting the actual baby at risk with the genetic mixes that happen,
yeah. So
I would leave my family, and I wouldn't want to see my family member in the face of my child.
so you
I would love.
you're
the kid
expressing
if
a
I had
common
them.
view.
But-
It's not held by everyone. There are plenty of people out there who
Will you let me finish?
yes.
I would love the kid if I had them. But more
Well, you
than-
do have them.
More than likely, I would give the baby away. And in modern society, the foster care system is crap. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
in the state of Oklahoma, it is. There's no working around that. The foster care system in the state of Oklahoma separates sibling sets, rips children that are on the verge of adoption from their foster parents to send them to another home. There are homes that are abusive. There are homes that are filthy.
Yes.
So, if
So
if I had the kid, I wouldn't want the baby.
So
I would send it to the foster care system, which you think in this ideal society that you're talking about would be this bright, happy, clean system.
no, I'm not
It's
not
gonna be
positing
a
an
bright,
ideal
happy, clean
society.
system.
I'm not positing an ideal society. There are some
I
people.
just think that coming out here with signs
Mm-hmm.
comparing abortion to slavery on a Monday morning in Norman, Oklahoma,
Mm-hmm.
might be a little much.
So you said a whole lot, and anytime I
at
tried to
science.
answer,
Oh
Look
my
at the
god.
Yeah.
See, you heard me say he's comparing abortion to slavery,
I was passing
huh?
by and I heard it. I was like,
Yeah.
Right?
so
Look at that.
actually, what's being compared. So like, I don't know if you really want me to talk about any of the things you said because you pile them up, and then when I try to answer any of them,
Well,
you
you
jump
kept
to the
interrupting
next. Well, I was trying very hard not to interrupt you, but if you
I
add
think
clauses, it gets a little difficult. But the thing is there are people like me who believe in universal human rights and that human beings are made in the image of God and should be loved and protected equally. And if we really do believe that, and we're not positing an ideal, perfect world, but we are positing that's the ideal that we need to have for our laws and for our practices, we will, when there are these grave dehumanizing practices going on, try to stand up and abolish them. And so, yes, you can come up with all sorts of excuses for like why. So, and the reason it's not insane to make the comparison is when abolitionists of slavery stood up and said, this is evil, buying and selling and ripping a family apart is wrong. And someone says, well, see, you're saying that, but you don't know my exception. I've got all these people to feed. And if I don't have 20 people working my plantation, this, and exception. And they say, I don't appreciate you abolitionists coming out here and saying this is evil and it should be abolished. You are never going to be in my situation where you own this many people as property.
Well,
and the abolitionists say like, so they would say things like this. They would say,
No. This is serious.
I don't have a womb and I
So
never owned a
You
plantation.
keep talking about the abolitionists would get attacked, the abolitionists would get attacked. You
Yes, they would.
realize that you're just skimming over the whole thing of the actual slaves.
Yeah, so
You're
just like you're skimming over the thing of the actual
Stop.
preborn
Let me
child.
Talk. Let me talk. Thank you.
Right.
You're skimming
preborn
over
human.
the actual slaves.
You're not
and
following
going
the
straight
analogy.
To the abolitionists were being attacked.
So who's being attacked today?
Anyone out here that's walking and y'all are
No.
trying to put
The
pliers
preborn
in their
human,
hand.
so someone somewhere is putting a pill in their mouth and it's going to terminate the preborn human
That's
being
an
in their
unfortunate
womb.
choice, but it's a decision.
That's who's getting attacked. I'm the abolitionist advocating that we not attack them.
Can I ask?
Yes.
I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from.
Yes, that's good. That's the first step.
What is the link between this slavery and abortion? Like,
Yeah.
from your perspective. I want
Yeah.
to understand it from your perspective.
Awesome. That's good.
I have another question. That's
So-
fine. Have another side. The other one behind it.
This one is just white.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to answer her question real quick because it may answer yours. Abolitionists of slavery, they were a small minority of people, very small. Even in a country where half the people were for slavery and half were against it, there was only a very small number that were like, this should be abolished. This is a crime. They thought it was a crime that needed to be abolished because one, it was the dehumanization and destruction of human beings who are every bit as equal and made in the image of God as a white person. So they said, this is theologically, morally, ethically evil. It must be abolished. They said the laws protecting this practice are criminal. And so they need to, that's why they used the word abolish. There were laws protecting auctions, mistreatment, dehumanization. Slaves couldn't read, couldn't vote, couldn't go to church, all that kind of stuff. So they were like, no, it's the practice. It's predicated on man stealing, basically all the way back to where they originally got the slaves. It was from people stealing each other and selling them just to make money, selling them across the transatlantic slave trade, selling them at auction blocks and so on and so forth, and then working them to death, either in the fields or in the houses, whatever, treating them like property. Abolitionists said, they're made in the image of God, they are my neighbors, and I'm to love my neighbor as myself. And so they applied the golden rule to the slaves, even if they were white. So an abolitionist that was white, even though they didn't own a plantation, even though they weren't slaves themselves, they said, this is evil. Why? Because I know what a human being is. They're an image bearer and they're my neighbor. I have to say this is evil. I have to get rid of it. So the abolitionists stood up. And so for, 30, 40, 50 years, you had abolitionists standing up and saying, this must be abolished. And then you had the bulk of the country saying, my plantation, my prerogative, my property, my choice. You've never walked a mile in my shoes. Who are you to tell me this? You're a Pharisee. Keep your religion to yourself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the abolitionists is like, we've got to abolish it because we can't do this to people. And then people will come along and say like, yeah, but if you criminalize slavery, who's going to take care of all these freed slaves? Like, who's going to take care of these children in foster care? Excuse after excuse after excuse that the abolitionists had to hear from people who basically were saying, I disagree with abolishing slavery. So I'm saying that people today don't have the same worldview as the abolitionists then. Like, we don't believe that people are made in the image of God. We don't believe that God cares what we do to each other. We don't really believe that God judges nations that have evil laws that lead to the destruction of human beings. And so the abolitionist is an extremely rare person. And so I would say, if you're not an abolitionist of abortion, chances are, because of all that, you would not have been an abolitionist of slavery. But today, everyone walks around all smug-like, pretending like they would have been an abolitionist of slavery. But then you can ask them, oh, do you believe that human beings have rights and that they should be protected equally? They'll be like, yes. And you'd be like, what about preborn human beings? Oh, well, what about rape? What about foster care? What about mothers who could be in serious places where they're going to die? All that kind of stuff. Excuse, which proves, okay, put that person in the 19th century, they're walking by. They see that slave auction, and they see that person saying, this needs to be abolished, and they see someone standing on a street corner saying, slavery is evil, it should be abolished. They walk by, and they say, this guy's attacking us. He's out here hurting our feelings by advocating for the slaves. Just like I'm out here, and frankly, she walks up, and she says, I'm attacking y'all by saying, we need to advocate for the preborn human being.
You're saying abortion is evil, it should be abolished.
Yes.
Same way slavery was evil and
Yeah.
was.
Even though people can come up with a million reasons why slavery shouldn't be abolished, none of those millions of reasons should have kept it legal for the 50 years that it was legal.
Can you give me 3 top reasons why you believe abortion is evil and should be abolished?
So I believe human beings are, as themselves, valuable and should not be murdered. So I believe thou shalt not murder is true. Like, someone murders another person, they're attacking another human being that's equal to them, but that was made by God in his image. I actually believe in the principles of the Declaration of Independence.
So you're coming from a religious standpoint.
Yeah, I don't believe...
From a secular standpoint.
Well, the Declaration of Independence was written to be the foundational document for our country. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. That is, as Thomas Jefferson wrote it, a religious idea, created by God, endowed, inalienable rights. So the arguments against murder are, generally speaking, rooted in theology. So someone could run around and be like, make a secular argument. The problem is make a secular argument for why murdering a born person is wrong. And you can't do that.
So, with the principles of the United States being made on a theological standpoint, I think the theological ideas of the United States aren't about just Christianity and its ideals, but having freedom of religion and separation of church and state in order for everyone to practice their own thing.
Sure, that's true.
So, shouldn't we keep it as the ideal of, like, I get the...
free discretion and exercise of religion.
But wouldn't that extend to what you believe in your, like, you wouldn't appreciate it if an Islamic person would tell you that you needed to praise Mecca every 1,200 hours because that's what they do. So I don't think they would appreciate you coming to them with your religion.
But they can certainly do that. And
they could, but no one would take them seriously because they're not the predominantly appreciative religion within the United States.
Well, no, if like the Islamic Student Association wanted to stand out here and pass out flyers saying, hey, we really think that God really likes us praying in a certain direction a certain number of times a day, I could come out here and talk to them and say, hey, I disagree with you. I think that you could pray to God only through Jesus, and we could have a conversation because it's America, and I think that's...
Course, but they don't have the staying power that Christianity would in the United States, being predominantly Christian.
They would be protected, though, to do that.
But they wouldn't be able to push it.
I wouldn't consider them attacking me.
that you could turn this into a law that other people have to follow and other people have to abide by.
Yeah. So I'm not talking about any laws about who you have to pray to. What I'm talking about is.
Isn't this still about religion and the ideas?
Well, it depends on if you're going to be consistent. Do you believe there should be laws against murder in the United States?
I think that the argument he's trying to make is that the basis is Christian.
The basis of all laws is going to be theological.
But our basis is not Christianity. We come from Jews. Jesus was Jewish.
That's not what we're arguing.
Yeah, but Jesus
Yeah.
was Jewish.
So
if you wanna
so
go
I agree with you.
Christianity, go back to Jew-
So the 10 Commandments are definitely given to Moses on Mount Sinai, and we're still trying to follow them. Thou shalt not murder. Actually, Noah gets to hear, don't murder each other. If you murder each other, you jeopardize your life. Man's made in the image of God. If you murder someone made in the image of God, by man shall you be murdered. Noah gets that like thousands and thousands of years ago. Moses gets thou shalt not murder as one of the 10 Commandments, right?
Saying, this feels like throwing the first stone. He without sin should throw the first stone. This feels kind of like a first stone.
Well, I'm sorry you feel very judged by my artwork, but there's no stones involved. It's a message to get you to talk.
Jesus with the adulteress.
Yes,
Was
I'm
she
very.
supposed to be stoned to death?
Yep.
Tells everyone, he who without sin.
Because he was
throws the
pointing
first
out that
stone.
they were all sinners and
We're
in
all-
need of
we're
grace
all
as well.
sinners.
I agree,
An abortion
100%.
is not a bigger sin than anything else. Sin is equal.
So
A lie is the same thing as stealing.
So hold on a
in
second.
God's eyes.
in one sense, yes, but do you think, do you think someone who rapes a 3-year-old is doing the same thing as someone who steals a piece of bubble gum at a 7-Eleven?
I think that God judges them similarly.
They both sin, and they both sinned,
Just
and
like
they both
gay-
will be separated from a holy God. But which one?
Sex and
Okay,
vandalism are just as
okay.
sin in the eyes of God.
Right, okay, we agree there.
people out
But
here
say we
committing
passed a law in this country and said that if you rape a 3-year-old, you only have 2 weeks of community service because we want it to be equal to stealing a stick of gum.
Well, you see, that judgment in the eyes of man and judgment in the eyes of God are
Right.
separate. Judgment in the eyes of man, you have to set a precedent.
That's what. So that's what we need
Judgment
to
in
do,
the eyes
though.
of God,
But that's what we need to do, right?
and we are not really, as Christians, supposed to judge one another.
Well,
We're
one,
not really supposed to. We can
one.
hold each other
I've actually
I
not been all that
am- I
judgy
am
the whole
speaking.
time.
Thank you. We can hold each other accountable, but we cannot judge. We
I can tell
as
you
human
what
beings,
the
there's-
judge says. Is all I'm doing.
but you
God
don't-
says murder. Thou
is-
shalt not
is
murder.
God talking to you right now?
No. He wrote it down.
He wrote it down. Do not
Nations
murder.
that
But
allow
also
the murder of other
do not
people
steal,
will
do
be
not
disregarded
cheat,
and
do not
judged by God.
disrespect your mother,
Leviticus
your
20.
father. Like,
Okay,
What-
so God says
like-
do not murder, right?
Yes, God says not murder.
To you, abortion is the same as murder.
What's that? Yes, abortion is the same as murder. It is.
Okay, so-
It is in all the technical connected senses. It's somebody choosing to have somebody else cease to be alive. So
Are
you
there
have
exceptions?
exceptions for murder.
No.
Some people think it's
For
okay to
abortion.
murder people because you want their stuff, and I don't think that's a valid exception.
Okay, let's say maybe this a woman is pregnant, right? And like if she does not terminate the pregnancy, she's going to get into serious trouble, maybe even die.
Yeah.
So the best thing.
I don't think that's because like you could do that. You could do that. A mother could have a child, and the child is 4 years old, and having that 4-year-old in their possession could jeopardize her life. Like she doesn't have enough money. She's on the run. Maybe it's easier just to kill the 4-year-old and move on. Like circumstances and bad situations do not justify murder.
but an ectopic pregnancy?
So she should keep
Ectopic,
it-
a baby who dies because of their placement in the womb.
No.
Ectopic?
Those pregnancies can survive.
No, they are
Yes,
surviving,
they can.
They are doing
That's why
fine.
you have to watch, wait, pray, do everything you can to help the baby in the ectopic
Sorry,
situation.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm saying the doctors actually advise this woman to actually terminate
Yeah.
the pregnancy.
I think doctors should go back to saying do no harm.
Okay.
So they used to have a Hippocratic oath, and instead of advising, you know what, the best thing to do in this situation is just kill that kid.
Well, they do
I-
have an Hippocratic oath.
Okay.
They don't keep
So-
it. Not in case of abortion. So I think a doctor should, if you have an ectopic situation, so I've lost 2 children due to miscarriage, but they were both around 6. I've got 4 born kids and 2 that didn't make it. They died in miscarriages. We don't know whether it's because of ectopic pregnancies or just a genetic thing or whatever. But oftentimes in an ectopic pregnancy, if it's detected, the doctor can look at it and be like, okay, this baby is this high up in the fallopian tube or placed on the outside or the inside or something like that. And they're like, this baby is still alive, but they're growing. And as they grow, it's going to become more and more dangerous. What I would say is doctors should go, but you know what? I'm a doctor and I do no harm and I'm going to value. We're going to watch. And we're going to see if this baby can make it to 20 weeks. And we're going to do a cesarean section. And we're going to protect the mother and the child. Nobody's dying here. Tubal ligation to remove a child and put them in a NICU is way better than predicting that they're, because as you said, there are some children who are in ectopic situations who do get born and live. There have been instances where they've actually moved ectopic pregnancies, but they don't develop that technology because they just say, no, just kill them.
No, that technology is very much being developed. It's
And it
just
should
not
be.
100% there yet.
Yeah, and I think it would be more developed if we valued human life.
Okay, so we do not know if this baby is going to survive or not, but we know the mother surely is going to survive if the pregnancy is terminated. So you're saying it should be better to bet everything on a baby that we are not sure is going to survive instead of like betting everything on saving the mother that we know for sure is going to survive if we terminate it.
So the doctor he has two patients, or she has two patients. And she should be doing everything, or he should be doing everything to protect those patients.
Okay,
It may be easier to preserve the born person because they're bigger, further along, more complex, need less care. But what shouldn't be part of the equation is just prematurely terminating the baby in the hopes that that helps the mom. Because the thing is you can actually sit there and you can do more. If the baby is dying, which is unfortunately what happens in a lot of ectopic situations, the baby is just in a place where they can't continue to grow. It's just like after about 9 weeks, that's what the human fetus does. From 9 weeks, it just grows. Like all the organs are there, it just starts to grow, eating and growing. And so what happens is they usually are in a place where they can't grow and they die. And what you have to do is you have to be able to remove their body so there's not infection and, rupture and all that kind of stuff. So I just think that's a terrible, evil situation. It's a reality of the fallen world that we live in. But that reality doesn't mean, therefore we should also make it legal just to kill any preborn child anywhere for any reason at any time. Which is, you can't argue from these evil exceptions to this general rule of mass murder should be legal.
But what you're mostly arguing is the idea that everything will go correctly because we have medical equipment that we can just use. But most of the time, there aren't really easy solutions to a lot of those medical problems, and that need solutions. And people are always going to die, whether we like it or not. And I just think it'd be better to take a safer option for preserving people because you can always conceive again.
Well, I definitely agree with people are going to die whether we like it or not, and there's just unfortunate things in our world. But I don't think the presence of difficulty or unfortunate occurrences justify making laws that protect malice aforethought destruction of preborn human beings.
The idea that our theology must revolve around Christianity and nothing else.
Well, if we're going to be a country that believes that murder's wrong, if we're going to be a people that believes that humans have rights, we should be consistent with it.
We can't make those bases off of religion instead of trying to make it based off of the general consensus of the population.
Okay, so what if the general consensus of the population is that a certain class of beings is not fully human?
And that's just how it should be, but it shouldn't also.
So that's how it should be.
Even
it
back
shouldn't be
in
the fact. But
in
it
the
shouldn't be
Civil
the fact
War era, it wasn't the majority of the country.
Right. But see, you guys have just reverted from your worldview. You just proved what I said. So from your worldview, you basically said things like Nazi Germany, it just happens, and that is what it is.
Well, you said majority.
And things like antebellum slavery just is what it is.
Yeah, but I'm not
So-
going to stand there and argue against the idea of human rights whenever there's bigger things at play. There's not a world where we can allow abortions to be illegal and also subjugate people to harsh treatment from the society that they have to have the baby in, and constant peril because they have the baby and they keep doing.
Well, I am obviously an advocate for changing the world. Like I really am.
But the world isn't
Like I.
have abortion be illegal yet and it be sustainable for everybody that has to have
Right. But see, this is at the risk of offending you, okay? That is, so I, believe it if you will, I'm a historian. I've got a master's degree in the history of science from this university. You can go read my thesis in the great reading room.
What was it on?
It was on 19th century botanist Asa Gray and bringing of Darwinian theory to America.
I have a brother-in-law and a sister who have their masters in history of science,
So,
and they both don't
you're right.
come out here and yell about it.
Well,
This is different.
yeah, I actually don't yell either. But the thing I was going to say, I was prefacing it like the thing you just said, the argument you formulated is the primary argument against the abolition of slavery. You said the world just isn't in the place to be able to abolish abortion because we're not ready to deal with all of the outcome. I would say, after having read thousands of pages, 19th century pamphlets, sermons, literature, all that kind of stuff, that the main reason they said to the abolitionists of slavery was like, listen, you may be right that slavery is evil and needs to go, but we're just not in the place right now as a culture to be able to free all of these people. Who's going to take care of them? Whose jobs are they going to take? What's going to happen if like there's intermarriage? All these like concern about the world needed to change first was what the abolitionists had to contend with. So my claim that the abolition of abortion should happen purely and simply because human beings are made in the image of God, and in the womb they are still valuable and should be protected from murder. That claim is what I'm saying we should do, even if it's difficult for our culture, even if it's difficult for our society, even if we have to learn certain things in medicine, even if we have to face the fact that, you know what, people aren't going to be like murdering babies once or twice every minute of every day. There's going to be a lot more children in foster care. Even if all of that, we should do it, and then we should try to reconstruct society as best we can to account for all of these children. But that, I mean, I'm just telling you, that was the principal argument.
Why don't you try and start making changes for society rather than trying to immediately push laws that
Well,
will try and make
you should do both at the same time.
But you can't right
One
now.
has to come before
With
the
what? With
Why
what
does one have to come
resources-
before the other?
What?
Why does one have to come before the other?
Because one is immediately a lot more harmful than the other solution.
So there's this massive worldwide anti-Jew thing. I don't know where it comes from. Well, I mean, I may have some ideas, but there's like this anti-Jew thing throughout Europe leading up to World War I and World War II, right? Whenever the Allied forces found the death camps, they were faced with freeing them and revealing the atrocities of the Nazi Holocaust. If someone came along and said, whoa, 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 there's this massive like cultural hatred of Jews. We can't just do this. We need to actually work on changing culture to make way for all these Jews. No, you protect the people who are immediately in harm's way. And then if the culture's sort of like still anti-children or anti-Jews or anti-black, you fix culture. But you don't leave black people in slavery until culture's ready to accept them. You don't leave Jews
But they also have
in
their own
death camps until
autonomy,
cultures.
and the mothers of the children can't choose whether they're going to get harassed because they had their baby young, and they can't choose how well they're going to get treated because they don't have the resources to do so. Whereas,
None of it justifies killing the children.
but it justifies it whenever, like, it's their decision to make outside of a separation of church and state system.
Well, you can still have a separation of church and state, by which I mean the Constitution's, basically the founders had the clause of, we're not going to be like this country we just left, right? They had just fled a country that had a state church. They didn't want to have a state church. So they were saying, Congress will make no laws respecting the establishment of a religion, right? That's what we decided. I wasn't there, you weren't there, but that's what they decided back then. We're not going to have a state religion. There were some people that wanted that. They didn't want it. What I'm suggesting we do doesn't require the establishment of a state religion. It just requires the establishment of a... Hey, brother. Let me hook you up. You should come check it out. Maybe just hang it out. Yeah, cool, thanks.
But you can't hypothetically trim out what you do and don't want from all these things. If you want to push for it, then you have to...
Well, you can just be consistent. Say you say we're going to say in the United States of America, we're going to do a thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, right? Say we just say like property rights, human rights, right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And we boil it down just to that. Like I am for the right to life, the right to liberty, and the right to the pursuit of, owning things and having a life, happiness, property, right? I'm all for that. And let's just be consistent across the board. And that's all we need. You don't really need all of my religion to get there.
But all those things can be interpreted differently by...
Which is why, which is true. I agree with you. Which is why when the culture is wrong, so slavery made a mockery of the whole right to liberty thing, right? Straight up mockery. They had the right to liberty, but they had slaves. Well, abortion makes a mockery of the right to life. We have the right to life, but we have living human beings inside the womb do not have a right to life. Their life is not protected.
In between too many.
I see you on TikTok all the time.
Hey man, cool. That's encouraging.
If you ask me, I think this turns around too many disciplines.
I'm sorry, too many what?
Like sections of like knowledge. I'll explain what I mean.
Yeah.
From
Sorry.
a biological
Old ears.
Okay. From a biological point of view, first of all, I agree with what you're saying, but I just don't agree exactly with comparing it to racism. I think it's a bit too.
Well, I'm not comparing it to racism. I'm just saying, just for you and me. So the true comparison is not slavery and abortion. They're not, like it says on the flyer. Abortion and slavery are not the same thing. They are different things. What's the same is the abolitionists.
Okay, so
and what the abolitionists believe and do.
Rights for like unborn children, right? But like now the question comes in on defining what a human being is, and I think that is a problem in itself. But then,
yeah, I'm okay with letting science be the definer on that.
The world we live in today is just not only based on a theological point
Right.
of view. You have to accept that other people have different views,
Yeah.
that they come from different, I would say, backgrounds, and maybe don't have the same beliefs as you do.
But if somebody has a view that human beings don't have the right to live, we can challenge that view. So I'm okay with letting, so science is empirical observation of the natural world and testing and deduction, all kind of stuff. I am actually very much okay with letting scientific observation be that which we collectively use in a pluralistic, secular, humanist society, decide what is and is not a human. So I would submit, if the scientific empirical evidence states that a human being's life begins at fertilization and conception, I'm okay letting science define it.
So you're against science?
No, I'm for science.
Because
How did anything of what I said just being against science? I'm totally for science like that.
Cluster of cells.
No. A human being's life, when does it begin?
Exactly, that's my question to you.
According to science.
I mean, when there starts to be a heartbeat, and
Well, no,
that
that's
doesn't
a
happen.
philosophical proposition that human life is equal to a heartbeat. Scientifically speaking,
You're dead.
Exactly.
no, that's not true. So prenatal, embryological.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so here's Bazell, right down there, right? If you guys aren't in any kind of class that studies biology, embryology, fetology, anything like that. Okay, so according to like say a standard, what textbook are you guys using for human embryology or prenatal
I will be
biology?
in that class next semester.
So the text.
I'm gonna.
So the most used textbook in the United States of America is Moore and Prasad's The Developing Human. It's gone into like, I don't know, it's like in the 12th edition. That textbook, the entire run, has basically said a human being's life begins at the moment of fertilization, because that's what conception is. It's the conception of a new human being that's distinct from the mother. So Moore and Prasad, in their scientific textbook, which you will read and be graded on, will say that the life trajectory, the cycle of a human being, that individual human being, you are separate as a different human being from your mother at the moment of conception, from your father at the moment of conception, because the gametes, right? So the nuclear material from the spermatozoa and the ovum will fuse. The rest of the organelles will do what they're doing or whatever, but that genetic material that forms the new distinct human being is going to be a different genetic code from the mother at the moment of fertilization. So that's whenever the new strand of DNA comes. So that's where you have the new human. Now in that code you have the genetic instructions for the development of that particular individual according to that code. And that does begin at conception and develops
Each cell,
prior to six weeks or so.
Each cell in our body has genetic information about who we are.
But a single cell isn't the same as a human embryo.
Let me finish what I'm saying.
I've got to go. Thank you for talking.
And
Yeah.
like
Hey.
at the beginning of the pregnancy, and it's still a cluster of cells. Cells die by millions.
Yes,
Like cells in our bodies die
right.
and get replaced.
But the human zygote,
It also dies.
so the human zygote, before it goes through the morula and the blastula and all that, those phases. So what you have there is you don't have a human cell. You have a human being in the zygotic stage, right?
I mean,
That
if you decide to look at it that way, some other people don't.
Well,
They
it's
just see
replication.
it as a cell.
well, it's a human.
Because it doesn't have
So-
a heartbeat.
so do you think
so
a
they're
human's-
Like, it's a cell.
No, it's a human
Dies
zygote.
Just like any other cell can die.
Well, yes, it can. It can. I'm trying to say don't do things to intentionally kill them. So like for that first 6 days where you're basically, so you're a science person? So all of that development, all of the cell division that goes on in the first 6 days prior to implantation, it's all still within the zona pellucida, or however you say it, right? You know what I'm talking about. Well, all of that development that goes on within that human being is all basically staying the same size, but it's developing a rigid structure of its body so that whenever it meets the mother for the first time, 6 days later, 7 days later, you're going to have an implantation event. Like the zygote doesn't have the structure of its body ready for implantation. So from fertilization and conception until implantation, the human being is undergoing biological development and cell division because it's alive.
Like any other cell in our bodies.
Yeah, but it's undergoing the particular development that every human being on this planet
All cells
undergoes.
divide and multiply.
Right.
That does not make it any special. Like
No,
all
this
cells, I understand. I'm talking from
yeah.
a biological standpoint. I understand.
I'm not talking about
from a
size and shape. What I'm talking about, or that things divide. I get that things divide, but we're not talking. Okay, we're not talking about like. I could quiz you. Is it meiosis or mitosis that we're talking about?
Oh my
You
God.
know what it is.
I do.
Sexual reproduction.
Yeah.
And then when you have the development of that human being prior to implantation, every single one of the people out here, if you trace back their beginning, they went through that period. Now, that period, the mom doesn't know she's pregnant or not. She has no idea. None of us have any idea. Because the human being has not yet actually become detectable. Not by our current forms of detection require post-implantation because you need to be able to pick up certain hormones. And the hormones that you're picking up in the mother's bloodstream or urine stream or something like that are coming from the presence of another human. Now, by the time those tests work, what I'm suggesting And what scientists all agree with is that the reason the pregnancy test says positive is because it's saying there's another human inside your womb. And the reason the person takes the abortion pill is because they do not want another human in their womb.
Yeah, but you do know that like there are some masses that can grow in the uterus and trigger the production of those same hormones that a fetus would produce. So would you consider that a factor, like a defining factor?
No, because that's a muscle that's triggering a certain kind of false positive on a test.
You said, and I quote, like the presence of these hormones is like an indicator that this is a human being.
The possession of those hormones doesn't a human make.
All right, pause. We'll get right back to the conversation here in one moment, but I wanted to step aside to tell you about the upcoming event that we are hosting in Charlotte, North Carolina this April 18th through the 21st. The reason I'm telling you about it is because you are now in the 45th minute of the most recent Abolitionist Rising video. You're probably not watching these videos solely because they're entertaining, and I hope they're entertaining, but hopefully they're actually informative and helping to train you up in doing this work yourself. There's a lot to be learned from videos. What Abolitionist Rising wants more is for you to go and do the work yourself. That's why our organization is called Abolitionists Rising, because we don't want it to be about an abolitionist. We want to see abolitionists rising up all over the globe, calling for the total and immediate abolition of abortion to the glory of God. So what we do each year is we have this annual conference and mission. The reason we call it conference and mission is because it is a conference like other conferences where you will get together in a big room with a lot of other believers and hear from some of the top minds teaching and training. You'll hear these great lectures from these great speakers and teachers. There will be times of prayer and times of fellowship and times of worship and all the sort of things that go on at solid Christian conferences. But unlike so many conferences, we're going to take that group of people that are gathered together and take them out into the culture of death to put into practice the things that are being preached and taught on at the conference. It's so much easier to go and do the work of abolition when you're not by yourself, because we believe that it's not just about hearing and learning, it's also about doing. So we'll get back to the video, but in the description of this video is a link to our upcoming conference. It's a registration page. It tells you a little bit more about where it is, what we're doing, what's being spoken on, and all that kind of stuff, and a link to how you can register and join us. So please do everything in your power to not just be a watcher, but a doer. And the best way to get started is to come to the Abolition Now conference this April 18th through the 21st in Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay, back to the conversation.
Doesn't make a human, but the reason that people do pregnancy tests is because they're trying to figure out whether they are with child. Because if they're with child, they've got to make some decisions. Are we gonna, do this or do that? Are we gonna murder this little baby? Or are we gonna put the ultrasound up on the fridge in 12 weeks? They're making decisions. So the pregnancy test, which I've gone through. I'm old. I've bought many pregnancy tests in my life, and so when you're looking at the pregnancy test, it's to tell you whether you are or not pregnant. There's no sense in us pretending like it's not a mother trying to decide whether or not she's with child or not. And so there's no sense thinking that abortion is anything other than a mother, usually not alone, usually with the father, the boyfriend, whoever, or other people. There's no sense in thinking that it isn't a mother choosing to unpregnant herself, unaliving the child. So the only way to depregnate yourself is to either give birth, have a miscarriage, or have an abortion. And having an abortion is the one that happens out of pure intentionality on the part of the born human who has already been exactly where their preborn human is. Like everyone who chooses abortion has at one point in time been a human zygote.
Okay. I understand that.
So that's why I say scientifically, I'm okay with my view being like I say, if you have a human there, they need to be protected, even if it's difficult. If you have a human, even if it's difficult. And I don't think I think that, you know, use the science to decide whether you have a human there or not, because that's what science is. It's just empirical observation, testing, deduction, hypothetical.
I think I have one last question before I leave the class. But like, you say you advocate, you want the world to be a better place, right?
Yeah.
Do you believe the world would be a better place without abortion?
Oh
Do
yeah.
you know how many kids will be on the streets? I'll speak from like the country
Yep.
where I come from. Like,
Where is that, by the way?
Burundi in East Africa.
Burundi. Awesome. Yes.
We already have so many kids on the streets. Like, it's bad. So
Well,
how do you think?
Here, I think you can answer your own question. Do you think it'd be better to kill all those kids?
Not to kill them now.
Right, but
Not
not to kill them
but
now, but to kill them earlier.
Okay, what do you think would the world be like
Yeah.
if there was no abortion at all? Do you think it would be a good
Less
thing?
murderous.
Less murderous?
Yes.
You think so?
There-
Do you think
yeah.
murder is the only kind of like,
More responsible. There may be the
Abortion
same
is
number
not
of
the only
people
kind of
because maybe
murder.
people will become more responsible sexually speaking.
I
But no,
think the argument can be made that if we're not
that
making moves now to protect the people on the streets, then we wouldn't make the moves then.
well, we should do both. But the thing is in Burundi or anywhere else in America, the answer to sort of like lots of kids not being taken care of isn't killing them. Like genocide isn't the answer to poverty. Genocide, like you don't go, well, you know what sucks about Burundi is all these unwanted kids. Oh, I've got an idea to get rid of all these unwanted kids. Like you can't do that. Why? Because they're humans.
why not do it when they are still cells and like
Well, they are
not
still
go through
cells.
any suffering and like
You're still cells.
I am, but now I'm cells that have developed, that have a brain, a heartbeat,
Yeah.
and like a whole person.
Yeah. You're a clump of cells that has an experience that you can remember and feel. But that's not what makes you human.
I think it's part of what does.
Yeah, it's part of what makes a human. So yeah, and so the whole right to life part, not that part, but the right to liberty is. But like, so the right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. So to get to the liberty part and the pursuit of happiness part, you got to live. So yes, I'm not saying that a human morula, like a human in the morula stage, right? Like a little blackberry-looking human. You know what I'm talking about? That human isn't experiencing anything like I'm experiencing, but
They feel pain.
they don't.
They
But-
do not have a
but you know-
conscience, they
but you
don't
know how
have
we're
a
similar,
brain,
though?
They don't have a heartbeat.
Agreed. But in what way are we similar? We're both human.
That's what you say.
No. That's what
Yes.
everyone who has any kind of scientific understanding, philosophical understanding, or theological understanding says.
Yeah, philosophical and theological, yes, I agree. But like scientific,
So-
it might be.
Are you an atheist?
No, I believe in God.
Oh,
Actually, surprisingly, I
Well,
believe.
you argue like an atheist.
I'm not arguing.
Are
I'm just
you-
trying to understand more where you're coming from.
Well, like
I do.
an atheist doesn't think that
Wait.
theological ideas are real and should have any bearing on reality.
I understand that. I understand that abortion at the moment when the baby actually has a heartbeat and like has formed and can actually see the shape of a human being.
Yeah.
I do agree that it is wrong.
But would you be offended if I said that you judge people on the way they look?
Yes, because I don't.
Well, you just said
It
that the human being has to have a heartbeat of a certain shape.
Define a person for me.
A human being. I go human, not person, because person
Okay,
is subjective.
define human beings.
So human being, every member of the human species, if in existence at any time along biological development, is a human being and member of that species. So we know what human beings are. We can distinguish human beings from, say, pigs or shrimp or whatever,
Can
right?
you differentiate a human being the size of a blueberry and let's
Yes.
say what is
Not me, because I'm a philosophy history person, but a scientist actually can distinguish a human being in the earliest stage, a human zygote from, say, a blue whale zygote or a,
Yes, they can.
right? But they
doing
both might be this size. But you know what you can distinguish it by? Because human beings, we have a genetic code.
Exactly. But my
Yep.
question
And that's
is,
what's there at the moment of,
I get that.
yeah.
but
That's how you
just
know what a
trying
human
to
being is.
say-
We have a code.
I'm just trying to say that other people might view things differently from the way you do.
And when other people view that some human beings aren't as valuable as other human beings, abolitionists need to stand up.
Actually, I don't think you're ever gonna meet a person who's gonna be like, "Oh, I'm not for human rights."
I know.
The problem sets
Bunch of
in-
hypocrites.
The problem sets in
Yeah.
the moment you actually have to define what a human being is.
Yeah.
At what stage do you start calling it a human
Yeah,
being?
but-
I think that's where the problem actually is. Because
It is.
even I, who am like religious and a Christian, kind of like have a blurred line there. Like, when does it become a human being?
Well, so I agree with what you were saying. So the problem is like, yes, everyone you run into is going to claim they believe in human rights, right? But
I mean, there's
you're gonna,
you
you
exceptions in history. to that.
well, no. No, there's not.
Today,
There may
There's
be.
a couple notable exceptions.
Well, here's one. Like Hitler, okay? So everyone says Hitler bad. Hitler bad, right? Hitler bad. But you know what Hitler believed in? Human rights. But he had a certain ability to draw a certain set of people as not
Not
human.
Humanization, it's
So really, Hitler's no different from the person today that's like, oh, I believe in human rights, but the only humans I really think are the ones that are like wanted.
I think there's a difference between Hitler and someone going to
Well,
an
there
abortion
is.
clinic. But
Well,
I mean,
Hitler
whatever you
killed.
wanna say.
Someone goes to an abortion clinic may kill one person. Hitler may
Hitler
kill
kind of killed millions.
lots.
So,
But I'm saying, but we're not talking about who's worse. What we're talking about is what's the thinking. The thinking is people claim to believe in human rights, but everybody has to run around and ask, are they being consistent with that? Like, do you really believe in human rights? Like, I bet you she thinks she believes in human rights. But if I said, well, let's let the scientific textbook describe what is human, and the scientific textbook says a human zygote is a human, so therefore the rights that are afforded to a born human have to be afforded to a human zygote. Therefore, do you really believe in human rights? Certain kind of human. That's where that comes in. So, while not being Hitler,
I was gonna say, I think
the
that's a good argument,
the
but you lost
logic,
me at the Hitler part.
the logic, yeah, but the logic is a certain kind of human doesn't get rights. And so whenever she said the problem is people run around and they talk about how they believe in human rights, but not everybody really truly does. I'm agreeing with it. And then you were like, well, there's some examples in history that they didn't. Problem is a lot of those examples, you can change it with any kind of evil at any kind of time. Slaveholders, they actually believed in
There
human
is-
rights, but
there is people like Genghis Khan in history that,
yeah.
like even you can look at modern day stuff. Like you can look at modern day.
Yeah, Pol Pot probably did not believe in human rights.
Samson. Is it Samson? Is that the name in the Bible? The one with
Samson?
The hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
That one, in my perception, he was a mass murderer.
Sure.
But he was still God's favorite.
Well-
Circumstances.
Mass murderer or just he killed a bunch of people?
He did. He was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
he
same
He
difference.
killed a bunch of people.
He
That
did.
makes him a mass murderer.
And-
Yeah, I mean,
and
well,
and he
depends.
Was, actually, God actually created him for that.
Yeah, he-
specifically that.
Yeah.
And how do you explain to me that in those circumstances that were there, Samson was killing so many people?
Mm-hmm.
God was like, great, good job, because of the circumstances that were there.
Yeah.
Today, when someone is just in a situation when they feel like, oh, now
Okay.
this might be a big mistake and this kid might actually suffer more when they get here and they actually have developed the brain and conscious and
Yeah.
feel everything happening around them. So the best thing to do would be to terminate this.
Is
while
God
it's
telling
still-
them to do that? Just so I know for the analogy.
Is God telling you to do this?
What, hold a sign?
Yeah, to do this.
Well,
all of
not
this.
directly, but
Thank you.
what I'm saying, for your analogy, for what you're saying to work,
So why
Samson-
why was it
So Samson had this thing. He was fighting Philistines and like killing them with like donkey
Were they
jawbones
not
and stuff, right?
humans?
Right. Yes, they were. Well,
Do you
Philistines, yeah.
think it was wrong of him doing that?
Well, so what I'm saying for the analogy, to use something from then to now, the difference between Samson and the mother, for you to make the comparison. If it's okay for Samson to knock the towers down.
I don't think that you should knock her analogies when you just compared a woman who is trying to get an abortion to Adolf Hitler. And as a Christian, I love Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is the Lord.
Yeah, that's not what I did though.
I've been baptized. You did.
No. I compared the thought processes.
You can't call
No,
her
I'm actually not.
disgusting.
I'm friends with her. We're fine. I'm not saying her analogy is bad. I'm not saying her now. I'm saying the difference is if you're going to use like a biblical example, she believes the Bible. She believes that God was telling Samson, I want to do this. It's a little murky because Samson's a judge. It's during the period of the judges, and all these different judges, Samson, Gideon, whoever you're talking about, they're all basically supposed to be like clearing out like the Canaanites, right? So that's the context of the thing.
So do you think, my question was,
So I'm saying like
do you
if you
was
think
right?
that a woman having an abortion today is the same thing as like God commanding
Not
her
the
to kill
same.
Canaanites.
It's not the same. My question to you is, do you
Yeah.
think it was wrong of him doing that back then?
I think Samson did all sorts of wrong things.
You think it was
But I
wrong?
don't
But
know
God
which
was
ones were
agreeing, but God
I don't
was
know which
agreeing.
ones are right or wrong. God has actually asked his people to go to war before, and I don't think that was wrong.
Yeah, but you think
But
in the
if they
process
went
of
in war of their own,
killing
it was wrong.
people was wrong as well.
The only time it's okay to kill people is like whenever like if you have the state, humans that are in a society, and they are supposed to be governing over when other people murder other human beings. The only time the state is allowed to put to death anyone is whenever they are guilty of a capital crime.
So are you anti-death
Shall not
penalty?
murder.
That's
Are
not
you anti-death penalty?
No, I'm not.
Then,
No.
well, equal rights for all humans
Right.
extends to the death penalty.
Yeah.
From natural
No.
conception to natural death.
But the murderer on death row got the same right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness that all human beings got. Where I think you forfeit it is whenever you murder, rape, or steal people.
Natural conception, natural death. That is how God
Yeah.
puts it.
So
we should protect human life
Hey.
from moment
So
of natural conception to the moment of
God
natural death.
bless.
I'm not Catholic, so I don't disagree with the justice of God.
It is in the Bible.
No.
We're not supposed to murder. That
No,
includes
capital
murder.
punishment is in the Bible,
In the Old Testament,
and it's repeated in the New Testament,
Where?
Romans 13.
Romans 13.
Yeah.
They used to
Yeah, bear the
stone-
sword
they used to
against.
stone some
Yeah.
people to death, like,
No,
depending on
in
the
Romans
circumstances.
13, Paul basically says, or explicitly says, that the governing authorities are to be a terror against the evildoer, for they do not bear the sword in vain. And he's referencing back
it is
to
worse
Genesis
to
9:6.
put someone on death row and say you might die tomorrow or you might die in 5 years than it is to just kill them. It is worse
Yeah,
to make
I
them
agree.
live with the sword over their head.
I agree.
And that is the only way.
No, I
to-
agree. I think a murderer would be better off, both society and them being, I think people who murder, I think all of us, say, I've never murdered, right? But like, it's better for me to know that if I murder, I could be swiftly tried, found guilty, and terminated in
For some
weeks.
people, they might see that as a release.
I think it would be better.
Yes. The death penalty.
I agree with the death
and
penalty
abortion have to
much
go
more
hand in hand.
than the prison system.
The death penalty and abortion go hand in hand.
You think,
Have to be against both.
Well,
I'm against both. I would never get either.
you
would
sound
never-
like
I
you're
would never kill a
actually,
person.
you sound like you sound like a pro-life Catholic anti-abolitionist.
I'm a pro-life.
You're a
Catholic.
pro-life Catholic anti-abolitionist. You are the
But I would-
standard
I would-
pro-lifer.
I would take a rock and throw it at a woman at an abortion clinic. I would say, hey, do you need help?
Well, I would never throw a rock at
Well,
anyone
you
anywhere
know what I mean,
unless
like
they
the
were coming to my house. That's all I had is a rock.
There has been instances of people getting assaulted at abortion clinics when they're going to get abortions, and that's
Well,
like extremism.
Yeah, I'm not
But,
guilty of that or
wouldn't
anyone
do
I
that.
know.
I don't think you would do that. You seem like too chill of a dude to hit a woman, so.
Yes. Thank you.
But
Thank you.
you can't. I'm pro-life, but I am pro-life
Yeah.
from
Yeah, I am not pro-life.
Conception.
That's what I'm saying.
all the way to death.
Yes, I'm not
Because-
pro-life. Not definitely 100% not pro-life.
Then
I-
why are you out here?
Because I'm an abolitionist of abortion.
Oh, so you're not pro-life?
So you're not
No.
pro-life.
Oh my God, how?
Hold on, just
Did you wait?
slow down. I'm not part of the
You're
pro.
not, you're
Listen,
not pro-life.
Oh, I'll explain it because you guys seem like we haven't
you
been
don't
there.
like abortion.
I'm not pro-life.
Understandable.
No, I'm not
But
pro-life. And let me explain it.
Pro-life.
I'm for the abolition of abortion. I believe it is murder. It should be criminalized. I believe that all human beings should be afforded the same treatment. That includes being the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and living in a society where the only thing that will jeopardize your life is the commission of a capital crime, and the only person that can take your life in the commission of a capital crime is the state. You can also jeopardize your life if you're like attacking someone and they kill you when you're trying to kill them. But so that's self-defense.
That's self-defense.
Right.
That is acceptable.
So, but I'm not
just
pro-life.
said You're not pro-life.
Yeah.
This man is
I'm
out
definitely-
here protesting abortion, but believes in the death penalty.
I'm definitely not
He's not
pro-life.
pro-life.
Yeah.
He believes that
I think
you don't believe
yeah.
that we can kill a clump of cells.
Well, here, I'll tell you, I'm not pro-life
or
for a lot of
baby that is
reasons.
forming.
Let me tell you for a lot of reasons.
But you think that we can look at a 30-year-old man who has shot somebody and say, oh yeah, we're going to kill you now?
No, I think it needs to be tried and it needs to be determined. But what I'm saying is like, so the kind of defense that you would put up for a mass murdering cannibal rapist, I would put up for a preborn child.
The existence of a molar pregnancy.
Well, no, I know that happens, but are you against abortion in all cases except for molar pregnancies?
No, I think abortion.
That's why it's not genuine to argue from that. To argue
No.
from this,
No, I think anyone who needs an abortion or wants an abortion.
then you need to argue for that. You don't
Yeah, no, I'm
argue.
arguing for it. I
So
don't-
that's why it's disingenuous.
No, I think you're being disingenuous.
No.
No, yeah.
The definition of like disingenuous or like you're appropriating.
Oh, I'm appropriate.
Yes.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
putting a sign that says you.
If you are not an abolitionist of abortion today, you would not have been an abolitionist of slavery yesterday.
I think that is
Because chances
taking
are,
something that
chances are you don't believe the same thing that the abolitionist believed.
Do you know what abolition? Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah,
abolitionists
do you know
believe.
what abolitionist believes?
Yeah.
Okay, you.
Yes,
All right, you're for the destruction of prisons. You
No.
think prison? Okay, then you are not an abolitionist.
Well, actually, I already went over that I was for the death penalty and not for the prison system. But yeah.
Okay.
See, I think that it is a crueler fate to send a child rapist into general population than it is to kill them.
Gin pop.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you getting all the sort of prison stuff mixed up in there.
Because when
Yeah, kill children conceived in rape. I don't buy it. I'm not for it.
Okay, well,
I think punishing children to
Kill-
death for the
kill a
crimes of their
man
fathers.
that- We have in the state of Oklahoma
Hey.
put to death people that have had
So,
significant mental stuff that we should have sent them to
again,
institutions.
I would exercise the kind of love and protection that you have for murderers and rapists for the preborn child.
okay.
Like the way that you would protect a murderer from the death
Oh,
penalty
about-
is what I would do for a
what about all
preborn
the
child.
children that are alive
You
right
would
now?
you would say that it's wrong to kill a serial rapist murderer.
Anti-death penalty and anti-abortion go hand in hand. I'm sorry
No,
if you don't
being
believe that.
pro-justice. That's why I said I wasn't pro-life. Just because being alive doesn't
Now,
mean it.
what about what about?
justice
Are you okay? So
Okay.
you're all about this, anti. What are you doing for the children that are alive right now in Oklahoma that are in poverty, don't have access to food or healthcare?
Everything.
Oh, you are doing.
Yeah,
everything?
because
what are you doing for them?
well,
what are you doing for them?
I take them up
Can-
on hot air balloons and all sorts of
Oh,
stuff.
You really do.
Yeah,
Can you
because
give me
let me
five
let me
examples
let me
of
just tell you,
concrete things you do for the
the
children
reason
of
that I
Oklahoma?
said you were disingenuous
Really?
is because you're basically going to ask me if my view on whether or not something like abortion is abolished or not abolished is based on whether or not I can help all of the children in Oklahoma. That's so bad. That's not an argument. You can't expect me to help all children in Oklahoma.
No, I'm not saying.
Show me a
help all
child somewhere
children.
who needs help and I will help them. But that does not have anything to do with whether or not I advocate a certain policy or not on abortion.
Okay.
It's,
Well,
that's why it's like believing that abortion in any case is right, but not being able to argue for that and arguing from a molar pregnancy instead. And then me saying, wait, why are you arguing from this when you really believe this? Because you're disingenuous. Argue for what you believe.
I mean,
Don't argue,
you believe in
don't jump.
protecting an unborn child over
A human being
over-
at any stage of development deserves the same
human-
exact,
a human being at
Right.
any stage of
the same
development
exact
deserves
just
the same
treatment.
exact just treatment.
Right.
That includes people that could potentially.
All right, so here's how that works. Just because we're
That includes
we're all either in college or have been to college. Here's how it works. A human being in the womb right now. Say you have a human being in your womb right now, right?
Don't have
You don't. Well, say you do. Say someone out here who can carry a human being does. That human being, I think they deserve the same just, equal treatment as all other human beings, which would include if they're born and they grow up and they become a rapist and a murderer, they would go into the same treatment. They would get the same trial, the same defense, and then they would get tried. And in the event that they were a rapist or a murderer, then they would forfeit their life. That's how I can be for justice for the preborn and justice for the postborn. If you murder a person, that's where you get in trouble with the law, and that's where that's a capital crime. So that's why they're not inconsistent.
The reason the death penalty is
Just saying they're inconsistent isn't an argument.
The concept of being pro-life is because the death penalty kills innocent people.
Yeah, but I'm not pro-life.
The death penalty does kill innocent people.
I'm not.
We have killed innocent people in these.
Yeah, and all of us would agree that that was wrong. But I don't think just being alive is what makes you valuable. I think being human is what makes you valuable, and the only thing that can sever your protection in society is the violation of another image bearer.
Being alive is not all that makes you valuable, but being a human
Yep.
is what makes you
Yeah,
valuable.
that's what. Like, I'm not pro-life because I eat pigs, man.
Master of cells.
Just them being
Master of
alive,
zygotes.
just them being cells, it's got to be human. So human zygote,
Like,
human
back-
fetus,
can
human.
we go back to our first discussion when we were talking about when there's still cluster of cells, no heartbeat, no conscious, no brain, nothing going on, they don't feel pain. Or
I'm a cluster of cells with a heartbeat. I'm a cluster of cells with a brain.
So you
But
just
my
said-
brain and my heart both developed in and outside of the womb.
But that was that is before it actually develops.
No. So the brain and the heart are both there in their actual stages, like actually functioning heart and brain at like 9 weeks.
So you just say
Even your uterus was developed at 9 weeks to the point of it was there and present. But you did develop, you didn't stop going through cell division until probably 10, 11, 12.
I mean, to be fair, you never stop going through cell division.
Well, cell division in the sort of, in the,
Cell division goes until you stop.
yeah, so,
Cell division is what is life to an extent.
right, so what I'm talking about is you were not fully biologically developed, even in the sense of the changes that you're going, like, yes, okay, cell division, but like, you go through puberty at 10 or 11, right? This is this final kind of stage of biological development. You go through similar stages like that, but most of them all happen in the womb. So the construction of all of your organs based on the production of proteins, based on the production of the codes in your amino acid sequence, like that thing that's going on is all happening in the womb. So your brain and your heart, they came to be in your womb.
You're arguing the pro-life.
Well, no, because
No.
no.
He's not pro-life. He believes in the death penalty.
I'm for the abolition of abortion. So I believe abortion is murder and it should be abolished.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I assume that's in all circumstances.
But lots of pro-lifers do not agree with that because they don't believe that abortion should be criminalized.
I have a question
Yeah.
for you. So the reason you're stating is because it's a human life at conception, right? Or why should it be abolished?
So why should abortion? So I do agree that murder should be illegal and we should have no laws allowing the murder of any human beings based on.
Murder's a legal term. You're talking about
Right.
killing.
Right. So I agree with that general law, like that we all say we agree with. What I would say is that it needs to be extended equally to all human beings, all members of the human species. Okay. So the laws protecting you from murder need to be applied to you when you were in the womb.
What gives the human life in the womb intrinsic value?
So I do think that I'm unabashed where I think human value comes from. I believe human beings are made in the image of God. I believe that they are created by God and endowed with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit, happiness. I do believe in all that stuff, but I do believe that it is based in theological, philosophical propositions that are either true or not true, but I do believe they're true.
But can you
I think humans have value.
Can you give me a reason why human life intrinsically is valuable without citing religion, since we're founded on
Right. No.
separation of church.
And neither can you.
So
I can.
Okay, what is it? What is it?
I believe that the human experience gives human life value, which is why I say, after the first trimester,
So
when
you're
brainwaves
a
are
Christian,
developed-
you always agree with the secular humanist.
I'm not Christian, so
I know you're not Christian, but she said she's a Christian, please God, but she always agrees with the non-Christian.
Back to what I told you, that I don't believe, like, when
But
is
I'm
it
just trying to point it out for you. But
saying
so
as
you
far
think
as-
having shared experience is where your rights come from?
no, I believe that the value of human experience, which is brainwaves, which is why I say
Okay, so why
after the first trimester.
why does the possession of brainwaves matter? Because by the way,
That's what the human experience
okay,
is.
so do you eat meat?
Sorry?
Do you eat meat?
Yeah.
Do you think that the animals that provided that meat to you didn't have brainwaves?
No, they did, but not the same as that.
Okay, so what's the difference between brainwaves in the pig or the cow and the brainwaves in the human?
Pretty easy.
created
They
them.
don't.
Us
They
different
don't.
from pigs.
Sorry.
You don't think a pig has experiences?
No, they absolutely do.
Okay.
Not the same as a human
So I don't know what you're
experience,
talking
which is
about.
Very different.
Let-
The,
so
the,
let me
our
ask-
brains are different from pig brains, from cow brains. We
What is it about brainwaves?
we process stimuli differently. That is the difference in our brainwaves
How-
compared to pigs' brainwaves. The cow's brainwaves.
Okay, so what is it about the way that we process that makes it more valuable than the way that they process?
Because of the human experience, because of what we are developing.
Why?
Why?
Yes, why?
Because I'm saying that that's what I value. That's what my
By
valuation
just choice.
scale is.
So what if somebody somewhere else chooses to do something else? Like they say that your skin color is just a little bit too melanin.
No, 100%.
What if they say that?
100%. And
Wrong,
you can
right?
use that as a valuation skill. I
Right.
disagree with that valuation skill.
But there's
What
got to
I-
be some kind of belief that like can be used to
Yes.
judge one person's
Well, I'm
completely
saying in the United
arbitrary.
States, that's what we value. In the same way that if you were brain dead, you're considered dead on paper. In the United States, we value that brain activity as human life,
Yeah.
as a human experience. I'm saying prior to that, it may be
You're
considered
shifting
human
though.
life.
You're shifting. Why
what
is a
way?
human? So I don't think humans are valuable because they have brainwaves. I think humans are valuable because they're made in the image of God. It is a theological proposition.
You can't use that in law.
Right.
You can use that
No,
argument
I
for
know, but we
religion,
do use it in law all the time. We protect people in our laws. We protect humans differently than we protect animals. Why? Because we have this all the way back, because it's actually true, that we have the ability to understand that humans, we do believe in human exceptionalism. We believe that humans are different from pigs. And it isn't because pigs don't process stimuli. It isn't because pigs don't have experience.
But they do.
It isn't because pigs taste good.
No,
'Cause
and
they
I'm
do.
not saying, what I'm saying, and the reason is because if you look, let's say for example, just purely down to the brainwave scale.
It's because
we
humans
can
are made
tell
in the image
based
of
off
God and pigs are
That's
not.
why.
It is
That
actually why.
So
And
do
that's
you think
the
we
thing,
should
you
make
can't-
laws based off of people's personal
I think
religious
we
beliefs?
I think we do make laws.
Do you think we should make
Uh,
laws
yes, we should make
based
laws.
out of religion?
Yes. So here's how. Let me answer it fully. So we do make laws, and the laws we make are based off of our beliefs.
Do you think that we
And so we
should
should make
laws
them
based
and
off
make
of
them consistent.
religious beliefs?
Well, all of our laws are based off of religious beliefs.
No, they're not.
They're either based off religious beliefs or anti-religious beliefs, but they're all based
No,
off
they're
of
based off of
yeah.
There is certain morals
ideally.
that we
Yeah.
have.
They should be
So
based
why
off
do you
of
think they
a
put
scientific
Moses like
understanding of
why do you think they put Moses and the 10 Commandments like on the government buildings of Washington D.C. back when they made them? Why did you think they did
Well,
that?
back when they made them, Christianity was
represent morals.
the primary
Right.
religion in the United
Okay.
States of America.
But the reason they weren't all Christians, but they all
They were
basically
Christians,
they weren't all Christians,
They were-
but
it
they
was
did
the
basically
minority.
believe. So Thomas Jefferson was not he's not a Christian like I'm a Christian, right? Right. So, but Thomas Jefferson, the reason that in the preamble to the Declaration of Independence, he says, we hold these truths self-evident, is that at that period of time, they actually collectively were all kind of the intelligence to say, listen, if we're going to have laws and government and do all this thing, we have to have a higher law outside of our laws, and we're trying to make it as close to that. So what do we hold to be true and self-evident? Certain inalienable rights. Where do they come from?
Endowed by your creator.
Our Creator. So it was and is in this country, whether you're secular or not, it is going to be, historically speaking, connected to religious beliefs. Now you say, well, we've,
historically
provide a
we have
valuation
a
and then today
firm
we
wall of
could say,
separation
well,
between the church
we shall make no law establishing religion. Yes. Which
our
I'm not out here advocating for the establishment of a state church.
What it is.
Good.
That's exactly what that is. That is establishing
Establishment
that the
of
state should impose
Be the state.
laws
Just the state should be
by
the state.
argument of religion.
The
for
state,
religious reasons.
the state should just be the state and protect
also
innocent people.
respecting an establishment of religion as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is
Which
what
I'm,
it is.
which I'm 100%, not even doing out here.
So
I'm saying the laws against murder that are already on the books should be applied equally to all human beings. And for those of you, who do not agree with my theological views, you can just say, listen, I'm a secular humanist. I don't agree with your theological views. I would say, well, then let's all just agree with empirical science and say, you cannot murder a human. What is a human? And let the science textbooks define a human.
Dead, would it be murder to take them off life support?
If they're brain dead,
Yes.
no brain function.
zero brain.
Kept alive
Yeah,
entirely
no.
by machines.
Did they fill out a DNR?
Nope.
At that
Just
point,
no brain function.
it's not
Yeah.
even a.
Yeah,
They're
it's
not gonna wake up.
yeah, it's definitely not the same thing as like me shooting you. So like you have brainwaves right now or not, and
the
I
same
shoot
way
you.
That
Or not-
someone
or
in the
not
room
even
doesn't
crazy.
have brain.
I am
The same way
in a
someone in the room
horrible
doesn't
car
have brainwaves.
accident.
Well, I don't think humans have value because of brainwaves, and I don't think you think that anything has value because of brainwaves because because you're smart enough, that cows have brainwaves.
Yeah, but they're
And
different.
burgers are
If
delicious.
you look at their brainwaves on a computer, they're different from humans. We
They're-
can distinguish it.
Oh, so it's higher brainwaves.
See, brainwaves are a perfectly
They're
valid
different, not
measure
higher.
of value.
So what about like so
different in frequency, and we function and process stimuli differently.
Okay.
That's what I
Okay.
say
So like,
gives us value.
so not to be insensitive to anyone, but like, say you looked at the brain waves of, say, a human being with Down syndrome.
Whoa.
Whoa
there.
No,
Say you did that.
No, they still
No,
have the same.
don't be so
They
easily.
still have the same right.
No, they still they do. That's not what he said.
Exactly. That's not what I'm saying.
No, they.
Yes, they
still-
do.
still
That's what
distinguish
I'm
between
saying.
brainwaves.
I'm saying you can actually look at like certain indications on certain people over other people, and you can find that there are differences. But those differences don't justify their destruction.
They all have human markers.
Yes.
In their brainwaves, they do, yes.
There are certain genetic differences between people with Down syndrome and not Down syndrome, but I say the thing that makes them the same is they're humans. And so you can't murder Down syndrome people, even though that's what a lot of people do with
You can
abortion.
see, if you look on a computer, their brainwaves will also tell you about their human. And the same way, it doesn't matter if they have Down syndrome,
okay,
autism, or
so
anything
back
else.
to it. So what is it about the human brainwaves?
The way that we process stimuli,
But why
which
is
gives us
that
that human
important?
experience.
Why is that important?
Because that is our entire life, is the human experience. When
So-
you kill someone, you end
No,
their
but
human
why?
experience.
But why is that valuable? Why should we make laws based on that?
Okay, so then why
What's
should
the
we make
f-
laws valuable
what's
because
the
of our
f-
creator?
what's the-
Because I completely
Exa-
disagree
well-
with that there is a creator entirely.
Yeah, I understand. I
Man
understand.
in
Well, I
and of
actually don't. I'm
itself-
Jewish, but I'm saying in this example, I'm going to say that I completely disagree because I
men
have that
in
right
and
to.
of ourselves, we are
Well,
what I'm saying.
okay. So if you say you were a believing Jew, you
No,
believe.
I am a believing Jew. I'm saying in this example.
Okay,
I'm
so
trying
no,
to-
like say you believed in Yahweh.
Yahweh isn't my God. That's not what.
Or say you believe in. What do you
But yes,
prefer? You don't say his
You
name.
just say God. Yahweh isn't his actual God.
Right. Okay. So you believe in God of the Old Testament. All right. That's. I'm not trying to
No, I
convince
know,
you to a
I'm
word.
sorry.
Just saying, like, so say you believe that actually is true. What's revealed that God created the
100%.
world, right?
Yes.
So why in the world would you want to make any kind of laws or any kind of government or any kind of system as though he did not exist?
I'm not saying that I want
Because
to create
I-
laws.
well, I'm
Like,
saying-
I'm saying in order
I'm
to
saying,
create
like-
laws in the United States.
I'm saying so when God
I just
revealed.
I just want to explain
Yeah,
this
yeah.
portion. In order to create laws in the United States, you have to be able to define it without using any religion. We are founded on Judeo-Christian morals and morals only.
Yeah, you can
That is it.
you
If
can
need
assume
to
them
cite-
as endowed and created and coming from God,
It doesn't
and then
matter
you can
that
make
portion.
laws
That's-
separate.
That's purely symbolic.
So
What
I
I'm
would-
saying
right.
is
So
that as
I'm
far
with
as
you.
laws,
I'm with you.
cannot say that you need to extend it to this or you need to extend
Like-
it to that without giving an actual scientific
Okay,
valuation
yeah,
scale.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can't
yeah.
say, my God created it this way, because then other people's gods
I'm not
might
saying we have to put that in the law. So here's where we actually
That's
agree.
the reason for the law.
No, well, that's the reason for any of these laws. But like, see, here's what I'm saying. Listen. If we're going to agree, human beings are valuable and they're going to be protected from murder.
Human beings themselves are not intrinsically valuable. In
Yeah.
the same way that someone
I know.
without brainwaves
I
is
do believe that human beings are intrinsically valuable. And that belief is theological. But I think the laws don't have to be written in a theological way. They can just be human beings shall not be murdered. If you murder human beings, you will be committing a capital crime.
So with
And make that consistent, and then use science to decide what is and isn't a human being. And science is going to tell you any member of the human species is a human
I
being.
will tell you
It's
any
not going to be
members of the human
brainwaves.
species. That means that if they have human DNA, they're considered a human being, which means someone without brainwaves, without brain function, which means they're brain dead.
Well, if
legally,
they're
considered
dead, they're dead.
They're brain dead.
Yeah.
But by your definition,
If they're dead, they're dead.
But they still
Yeah.
have heart function.
Yeah, but I don't.
definition,
Yeah,
they
no,
would
but
be
I
considered
no, I
alive.
didn't concede. I didn't concede that brainwaves is a thing.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah, you're all good.
We're with Turning Point USA youth. We wonder if we could get.
You look like you're with Turning Point USA.
I try to get the look.
That's so judgmental.
I get
Yeah.
some lighting over there. Whenever you have time, do you have time? Like
Yeah, I'm actually supposed to leave like 2 hours ago, but these are all cool guys. But I'm just saying, like, like theologically, you got to have like a why. You have to have a why for what you hold. You don't have to put it in your laws.
No, I understand that.
But,
But
like-
in order to base a law around anything, you cannot just base it on theological principles alone. And that's what you're trying to do. And that's my issue.
You can have so I believe that the law against murdering you is theologically
It's
based.
not.
It is.
I can tell you it's not.
I'm saying historically, the idea that you're not supposed to murder other humans is rooted in theologically revealed
Theological
truths.
morals, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But at the same time,
That's a consistent law across every human
Because it's true.
that
It is
did
true.
not come from any
I-
It's not
particular
based on
religious
morality
source.
instead.
I know, but I think it's based on reality.
I think that we as humans
It is
have
reality. I think the reason we know is because it actually is innate.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's morality, not
innate.
I believe if any of you guys are, I think it's a properly basic belief. If any of you guys are in epistemology, like I think that knowledge of murder being wrong is something that is in and of ourselves, and that's why even Jefferson, the deist, was going to say that we hold these truths to be self-evident.
Jefferson also firmly
In a proper way that I would agree with. He did not want to. They just fled a country that had a state religion.
They just fled Church of England
Yeah.
for that reason.
Yeah,
That,
they did.
That means that we have to have scientific
Yeah.
basis for every law passed.
But so Jefferson, which he's a good guy and a bad guy in all sorts of ways. But when Jefferson said that he trembles at the thought that God is just, when he was talking about slavery, even though he owned slaves, but he was scared to death of the idea that God could look at the country with all its slaves. Because deists at that point in time didn't think that God was unaware. Like God was pissed at America and he was going to bring about war. Jefferson was a racist. He was a colonizationist. He was no abolitionist, but he thought, we better do something about this at some point in time because this is going to suck for us. But Jefferson, all of his stuff aside, he did know that if we're going to have a rule like life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, it couldn't be based on brainwaves because Jefferson knew that his pigs had brainwaves. And it couldn't be based on the brainwaves being human without it being like, well, what is it about it being human? So he knew it's got to be a creator. Or I have no Declaration of Independence.
That's his belief about it was from a creator.
Yeah.
I have to head out.
I have to head out. Hey, thank you.
Thanks for a good conversation.
It was good.
It's been enjoyable talking to you.
It was good.
Genuinely, It's been nice to see your point of view.
Yeah, I had flyers.
I'm busy Thursday
Hey,
evening.
if anyone wants to come, the way that we're gonna do it Thursday is I'm gonna like give a talk for like 45 minutes and then like have 45 minutes to an hour of just like letting other people say other things.
I'm super busy Thursday
So.
night. Otherwise, wow. Thank you so much for the good
So
conversation.
yeah, hey, that's good. All right, hey, thanks for talking.
I do have one question for you. So
Yeah.
with the implementation of a law like that, right? How would you distinguish, for example, with my brainwave argument, right? When someone is brain dead,
Yeah.
they wouldn't be considered alive at that point, by your definition. How is that different from someone who is
Yeah.
in the womb?
So the tricky thing is if someone is totally if an adult human being is totally brain dead and has been brain dead for a certain amount of time, I don't think pulling the plug on them is murder. The tricky thing is that people have come back from that. So there's something going on there, and you don't want to terminate people.
Have they come back from? When I'm talking about
But-
brain dead, I'm talking about,
yeah.
let's say, for example,
Yeah.
internal spinal
But
cord has been completely.
so that's the one thing. The other thing is like when you're talking about human beings at their stage of development, what is the minimum? What is it about them that makes them alive? It can't be the possession of brainwaves, because your brainwaves don't start going until a certain period.
I'm not saying that that's what makes them alive. So the argument that I
Yeah, it's not what makes them human.
Yeah, no, I recognize that from conception it's alive, it's human life because it has human DNA. I recognize that. I don't imply intrinsic value as far as our laws go until I can develop something outside of theological principles.
Yeah, so what if you developed something, though, just a technology that could stop someone's brainwaves?
For example,
Would that be killing them?
Like right now, yeah, if you stop someone's brainwaves,
Yeah.
they would be dead.
So like a human being that you stop their brainwaves, you're killing them.
Yeah, that's
What if you develop a technology that just pauses their brainwaves?
impossible. As soon as when you stop brainwaves in someone's brain, when their brain activity goes down.
What if it's just for a second?
For a second?
Yep.
Still too long technically.
So if your brainwaves stop for a second,
Technically.
in that second, you're no longer a human being.
No, you'd still be a human being.
All right, just look it up.
No, yeah, I know.
Just look it up,
I
man.
know what you're talking about, for example. But
Yeah, just look it up.
What I'm saying,
Yeah,
you're
you-
still a human being.
yeah,
you
yeah.
wouldn't be considered intrinsically
Yeah,
valuable
yeah.
by my definition.
I'm saying that you would be better and have a more robust philosophical ability to have a right and a wrong, a good or a bad, a evil or unjust, and all that kind of stuff, if you would root your actual beliefs in what you actually say you believe. If you actually believe that God really did make things and he has a character and there's something that is good and there's something evil based on his character, and he's revealed it to us in like the law of Moses, why jettison all that if it's true? If it's not true,
I'm not saying
get
this
rid
is
of
my
it.
actual opinion. This is an opinion. I'm a debater. I argue multiple
Yeah.
opinions. This is one opinion that I've heard that I wanted to argue with.
Okay, well, yeah.
That's not.
No, it's all good. That's fine. I'm just saying you personally, like, if you're going to be making statements about what should and shouldn't be law,
Yeah, you need to back. I'm saying from a.
there's
development
nothing wrong
philosophy-
with saying, listen, I know that my laws do have a deep theological background, and if I remove that theological background, because I don't think there is anything wrong with murder if, like, everything that God said about himself and who he is, if he doesn't exist, if there's no God, like, if literally all this is just atoms bumping into atoms and getting into more and more complex, I don't even think we'd be talking about it.
No, yeah.
I just don't think anything would be happening.
How would you?
And there
argue
wouldn't be
against
any
a
murder.
Satanist, then?
There would-
If a Satanist argues
Well,
for
the Satanist is just wrong. He's just lying. Just like the atheist.
The problem with the brainwaves thing, you can't avoid contradiction and arbitrariness. Like, well, also, I mean, someone who's brain dead is dying. You know, you have to keep them alive. You have to keep them on machines. You have to keep them breathing, feed them. Like, they are dying. Actively, their body is shutting down.
And in the same way, though, someone that may necessarily just be on life support may also have brainwaves as well.
Yeah, but someone on life support, I mean, brain death is what they define death as. Like, brain death, they are dead. They're not alive anymore. So their body's shutting down. Someone who's just on life support in a coma, you've had people that are conscious before in a coma. It's like able to hear people and all that sort of thing. So it's not even a matter of like, it's not the same thing. It's categorically different.
No. The reason that I argue like that is because as far as developing laws in America, I know bringing anything, because I used to do Congress debate, bringing anything to a legislature body, you can't bring any type of religion or theological background to it.
Yeah.
And the problem with establishing like a valuation scale is, in order to give value to something, you need a theological background, or in my sense, you try and develop with a scientific background, but for something like intrinsic value to human life, it's very hard to uphold anything.
Well, the underlying motivation for making a law is always going to be rooted in somebody's worldview, right? So, like, if AOC makes a law and someone else, Ted Cruz makes a law, both of them have underlying worldviews that are motivating why they're making that law. They may not say what those motivations are in the law, but they are motivated by either a religious or anti-religious view. And so when they go about making a law, like a Ted Cruz might be saying, I think human beings are made in the image of God, and so I'm going to pass this law about not running red lights. And AOC might be thinking, I'm a secularist, I do believe in human rights, so I'm going to pass this law about not crossing, violating red lights because I believe in human rights, right? Their motivations are different, but they might land on the same law. Or you could have totally divergent motivations that land in totally different laws. Like, I would say that someone who is arguing for abortion is going to be inconsistent with what they believe, and they're going to be arbitrary about it, no matter what, because you can't make a anti-human rights argument and say that you believe in human rights somehow.
What if you just say you don't believe in human rights at all?
You could say that, and there's a lot of people who say that. A lot of times they don't get voted into office. But if someone says that, if someone says, I do not believe in human rights, they're not going to act that way. There's going to be internal inconsistencies in that person that's going to reflect that they actually do think human beings are made in the image of God. So, like, even though they don't say that that's true, like, I would say I've never met a nihilist ever who has ever said that they don't individually care for their family members, right? Or they don't care for just normal people. Like, they wouldn't give someone a buck on the street if they're starving or something like that. They will do those things because they know that human beings are made in the image of God. And all those behavioral inconsistencies betray their stated belief. And then there's people who will say they don't believe in, the right to life of the preborn, and they'll do things that are consistent with that. But ultimately, there are behavioral things that are going to show that they don't believe that either. Like, you'll talk to any pro-choice person, and they will say, yeah, women regret abortions. Why? Why do women, grieve having a miscarriage? They shouldn't. If they're just a blob of cells, there's no reason to grieve that. People don't grieve their periods, right? Yeah. People don't grieve the sperm that dies every single time they have sex, right? They grieve the preborn child that dies because they know that they're a human. Yeah. So I think those behavioral inconsistencies are always going to come out. Okay. And arbitrariness as well. Yeah. All right, I gotta get to class. It was good to talk to you too. I'm Sam.
It's good to meet you. It's good watching this.
Yeah, I'm Sam. Nice to meet you. Have a good day.